everybody, it's Joe. Welcome back to Trauma Talk. Have you ever heard the saying, and I'm sure you have, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me? I heard this often as a kid, and it wasn't until I was, a teenager or 20-something when I heard instead the saying, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will break my heart. And that's the one that's actually accurate. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me is this idea that words don't actually hold that much power. And that's just not true. So let's talk about verbal abuse and how words actually hold a lot of power. We've talked about sexual abuse at length. We've talked about physical abuse. We've talked about emotional abuse and manipulation. And verbal abuse, I think, is one that is oftentimes neglected. It's not any less serious. But I think in part because of that saying that we hear over and over again, we're taught to think that maybe words aren't that bad, that we should just not be so sensitive. And that's ridiculous, because verbal abuse chips away at the very core of who you are, especially when it's coming from someone who you care about or says that they care about you. And that kind of abuse, that kind of trauma, that kind of hurt, you're allowed to take just as seriously as any other kind. Now, verbal abuse, I think, can be a little bit confusing, and I am putting in the description of this video a few links to articles because I think they probably do a better job of explaining what verbal abuse is than I can, but just sort of as a basis for understanding what it is, if you don't have an understanding of what verbal abuse is, it goes beyond normal fighting. And some articles that I read when I was researching this video categorized like any kind of cussing or anything like that as verbal abuse, and personally I would disagree. Some people just use language that, has a lot of cuss words in it sometimes. Like I cuss a lot just in daily life because it's how I speak, and I probably should do a lot less of that. But verbal abuse is anything that's targeted at you and is aimed to degrade or break down who you are or control you or make you think less of yourself. It's name calling, it's manipulation, it's denying and blaming and minimizing your accomplishments, and again, breaking down who you are. And that is so destructive and so damaging, and actually has the exact same outcome as physical abuse and sexual abuse and emotional abuse, which is anxiety, depression, PTSD, long-term health problems, so on and so forth. It is no less serious. And I want to take a moment in this video to get sort of tiny bit philosophical for just a second, though I'm not great at philosophy. If you think about communication, it's how humans have survived. It's how we do everything. It's how we interact. Even people who are introverts, like, believe it or not, I am, need to communicate at some point. Pretty much everyone, not everyone. But abuse at its core is a form of communication, I believe. If someone physically abuses you, sexually abuses you, emotionally abuses you, or verbally abuses you, that's verbal or nonverbal communication. And it is communicating a very strong message. It's communicating betrayal, it's communicating you're worthless to me, it's communicating this is all you're worthy of. It's communicating a lack of value. It's communicating horrible things. I could probably go on for a long time. It doesn't matter what kind of abuse you have gone through. If it's been someone yelling at you and degrading you and telling you that you're a horrible person or that you're evil or calling you names, or if someone has been hitting you, or if someone has been manipulating you or sexually abusing you. It hurts. It all hurts. It all leaves really deep scars. And I see people trying to sometimes rank kinds of abuse. And I think that's just kind of silly, honestly, because abuse is abuse. End of story. Trauma is trauma. End of story. And you get to decide if it hurt. If it hurt, which it probably did, then you are allowed to feel that. You're allowed to deal with it. You're allowed to, whatever. And I think it's hard with words with verbal abuse because of this idea that we have that we should not be sensitive, that we should have thick skins, you know? It's okay to be hurt by someone's words. It's okay that what someone said destroyed a part of you for the time being, or hurt you so deeply, or made you question yourself, or whatever it is. And it's okay to deal with that and recognize it, just like it's okay to deal with any other kind of abuse, because it doesn't matter the form of communication that someone used to abuse you, whether it's verbal or nonverbal, it's still abuse. I hope that made sense. But I've been thinking about that for a little while, that it's really just someone making a statement, essentially, of your value. And those things get to us, unfortunately, and they hurt deeply, and they have to be dealt with, as unfair as it is. A tactic that a lot of abusers use, unfortunately, is telling us that we're being oversensitive, telling us that we're being overdramatic and just reacting to what they're saying or misunderstanding it. And those things play into how we're able to process getting out of dangerous or abusive situations, and also processing the abuse in the aftermath. So let me be at least one voice to tell you that you're not being oversensitive. If someone's words tore you apart, you're not being oversensitive. If you have developed PTSD from verbal abuse, that is common. You're not being oversensitive. If someone's, barely raised voice causes you to go into a panic because you've experienced verbal abuse, you're not oversensitive. Verbal abuse is a very real thing. It's a very serious thing, and we don't treat it, I think, nearly as seriously as we should in this society. And if you have experienced any kind of abuse, verbal abuse or otherwise, know that what this person communicated to you, as real as it felt, as true as it may feel, as hard as it is to get out of your head, know that it's not true. Know that you are worth so much. Know that you're not oversensitive. Know that you're not whatever they said that you were: stupid, evil, overdramatic, worthless. Fill in the blank with whatever words they used, because they get pretty creative with the words that they use. Know that you are absolutely worth it. You're absolutely worth fighting for, and that was one person's opinion. It is not who you are. The wounds from verbal abuse can be worked through just like any other type. It takes time, it takes effort. It's not fair that it should have to be processed and that you should have to feel the effects of the aftermath, but unfortunately, that is how it works. There's absolutely hope, there's absolutely healing, and you are not alone at all, ever, in your journey. I am Jo Beckwith, and this is Trauma Talk. If you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to comment or message me. I am here. Thank you so much for watching. Please take care of yourselves. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. But before you go, please make sure that you hit subscribe and follow my YouTube channel, or hit like if you're on my Facebook page so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Thanks so much, guys.